Mike Pence and the statements that Trump had made, but I
yeah,
can
but you say such an inference is fine. So this is again.
I didn't. I said the inference is fine.
Wait a second. This is the same as an internal.
Collecting the people there for a given
bro, that
purpose
makes no
they
sense.
Actually managed to succeed in doing.
Yeah,
it makes perfect sense.
Just be talking over me before I can make the point. Doesn't help your point.
All right, buckle up because this debate is about to get brutal. Andrew Wilson wrecks Destiny in this live debate, exposing the weakness in Destiny's arguments and showing exactly why the woke narrative falls apart under pressure. Destiny tries to dance around definitions, twist logic, and act like his arguments are airtight. But Andrew Wilson tears it all down piece by piece. This isn't just a debate. It's a demolition of Destiny's entire stance. Let's get into it.
Hey, I got a question for Destiny, and I think Andrew can pick up afterwards. So based off of your 4 points that you gave for what would make an insurrection, technically, none of your points make it necessary for there to be violence. You say in point 3, force or intimidation, but it doesn't necessarily have to be violent. So based off of that, wouldn't any legal protest where you're advocating for a certain political cause or anything like that in a public space, wouldn't that also, by your definition, count as an insurrection?
No, because I think that the intimidation part is important. The quote that I borrowed from here was from Justice Marshall in 1807. He said, quote, "The most comprehensive definition of levying war against the king or against the United States, which I have seen, requires an assemblage of men ready to act and with an intent to do some treasonable act and armed in warlike manner, or else assembled in such numbers as to supersede the necessity of arms." So I don't think you necessarily have to engage in violence, but I think that having the people there with the purpose of like intimidation and being ready to act with violence, I think is easily enough to satisfy
no justice,
no
justice, no peace.
You would have to point to you would have to point to a particular thing.
Yeah, I'll point to
CHAZ
chops. So do you think that if you were to take over a big portion or even a small, tiny portion of a state and consider it to now be neutral from the United States itself, that becomes a federal matter?
I don't know. Is that was it considered a federal matter?
Well, don't you think that is resisting federal law? If you make the claim we are seceding this area from the United States, how would that not be federal?
Were they seceding it from the United States?
That's what they claimed.
Seceding it, or were they seceding it from Washington or whatever?
What?
Were they seceding from the United States of America, or were they seceding from like the state or the city?
They said that this is a neutral zone.
So they no
we
longer
are
accepted
seceding.
USD. They no longer employed or recognized.
I'm not sure
like,
that even if you were to have a succession or a secession, that would mean you couldn't accept USD anymore.
Okay,
like why would that matter?
Because, well, it seems like if you're going to secede from a country, it feels like part of that would be like establishing your own government, establishing your own like foreign relations
you
and
you can still have USD, and they did. They were trying to do that. They had their own armed militant group who was there armed, definitely intimidating, refused to allow people to come in and out of the zone. They were trying to start their own economy, their own gardens. They had annexed the buildings which were around them. That definitely seems like they're resisting federal law. You're not allowed to secede in the United States. That's a big no-no.
I don't remember this being. Can you tell me what statements or what they made? I don't know the details of this. What did they make, or what statements did they make about federal secession?
Yeah, so CHAZ Chop, they considered it the neutral zone. There was multiple statements made that this is no longer part of the United States. We are taking this over just by the people who were there.
By the people. So if a random person says a particular thing, because I thought you said earlier.
Well, I mean, if a random person takes a baseball bat to someone, you call it a secession.
You said earlier that we couldn't read intent into the Donald Trump crowd, despite the fact that people were hanging signs saying 1776, hang Mike Pence, and the statements that Trump had made. But you say such an inference is fine. So this is again. I didn't. I said the inference is fine.
Wait a second. This is the same as an internal.
Collecting the people there for a given purpose
that makes no sense.
Actually managed to succeed in doing.
Yeah,
it makes perfect sense.
Just be talking over me before I can make the point. Doesn't help your point.
Yeah. So I mean, this is classic Destiny, just rambling and trying to dodge the real issue instead of addressing the actual point. Andrew Wilson nailed him right there. Like, how can Destiny sit there and say he can read the intent of one group, but then suddenly claim it's impossible for another? You can't have it both ways, man. Either you can infer intent from actions, or you can't. But instead of admitting that, he just talks over Andrew Wilson, hoping nobody notices how flimsy his stance is. Embarrassing.
No, it actually doesn't make any sense. Because your claim is that you can read into the hearts and minds of these people based on what you perceive their actions to be. It's like, okay, fair enough. So if the people who are there are doing the exact same thing, they're saying, okay, this is now a neutral zone. We're seceding from the United States of America. Why can't we read that into their actions as well, Destiny? It makes no sense.
I would absolutely do that if but I don't know of any statement like that. And you can't name a single one. So I don't know what I'm supposed to go. I don't know what I can work
If
off of.
CHAZ Chop, if there was such a statement, let's just assume that there was for a second, would you then consider that to be an insurrection?
If they said that we are going to secede from the United States of America and they had like some organized violent wave and all the other elements were met, then I would say, yeah, this would count as an insurrection. Easy, sure, easily, of course.
Gotcha.
All right.
But you wouldn't say the same for January 6th, though, because you haven't given a definition of insurrection, but that's the difference between good faith and bad faith.
No, that's not bad faith for me to do an internal critique in your definition when I can at least take your definition and say, wait a second, all of these apply to a different category. And that was established very well.
You're critiquing my definition without even having a definition.
I don't need to have a definition to critique yours. That's absurd.
You can't.
That's illogical and absurd.
But the debate. Stop using illogical. It doesn't mean anything. You're abusing the word. Okay.
What does it mean?
The debate was over whether or not January 6th was an insurrection.
Uh-huh.
If you only came to that debate to critique my position, and I shouldn't even let you get away with this. You said earlier that you were neutral on it. You're not neutral on it. The answer for you is you can't compute the question. It's undefined. You don't have a neutral position. If you don't have a definition of insurrection, you can't possibly take a position. It's like dividing by zero. The answer is not neutral or nothing.
Again,
you just have an undefined
well, I know you don't like
this.
this.
Have a definition of a term.
Yeah, I know you hate this, but
that is
illogical. That's actually an illogical statement to say that I would need to have a definition of anything to critique your definition of it if I have something else that I can make a comparison to that fits with better, that you agree it fits better in. I don't know why you don't get that.
Just say, okay, what would your position be on if I were to ask you, is January 6th...
What the fuck? Are you okay?
What's your answer to that? Is January?
Did you just
6th,
go blah, 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 blah?
Yeah.
Why?
I'm asking you, was January 6th a? What's your answer to that? Would you say you're neutral on that?
Well, that would be incoherent. I wouldn't even understand what you're saying.
Thank you. I agree. Yes. Insurrection, that term is incoherent to you because you have no definition for the word. So I'm uttering nothing to you. When I say insurrection, you have no way to compute the question. So you can't say that you're neutral on it. The same way that you can't say you're neutral on it being
well, I don't know. I don't know how fucking
insurrection because you have no
I don't know how language works then when you say, okay, this is a Snicker bar and I don't know what a Snicker bar is, but I can't make comparisons to other things so that I can at least understand where you're coming from with what a Snicker bar is. Okay, Destiny.
Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but this is hilarious. Andrew Wilson just obliterated Destiny's whole argument. Destiny can't even pick a stance. Like, bro, if you don't even know what an insurrection is, how can you pretend to have a debate on it? This is exactly why the woke crowd loses every time. They just move goalposts, dodge definitions, and hope nobody notices. But Andrew Wilson isn't letting him get away with it, and it's beautiful to watch.
That's correct. That is correct.
That's absurd.
What if I showed you a bar and you're like, that's not a Snicker bar. That looks like a chocolate wafery thing with caramel on it.
Yeah, if it fit the criteria. That's really, isn't that great how that works?
Actually,
if things fit other criteria better.
With a Milky Way. That's actually way more like a Milky Way. No, it's not quite a Milky Way. It's a Snicker bar. And you're like, well, I don't
Well, then it would fit that criteria of a Snickers bar, the ontology of a Snickers bar, better than the ontology of a Milky Way.
You don't have that ontology is not existent for you because it's undefined. You have no definition of what a Snickers bar even is.
You don't need to have a definition for you to understand an ontology of a new concept. What are you talking about?
This is just Destiny melting down in real time. Andrew Wilson is completely right here. If Destiny can't even define what an insurrection is, then what is he even arguing about? You can't just pretend a term is whatever you want it to be when it benefits you, but then act confused when someone applies the same
crazy
to your own argument.
We're arguing over whether a thing
Andrew
is
Wilson
a thing,
is walking circles around
whether
him,
A
and
is B,
is
and for you, B is
together
undefined. So you can't
point.
even be agnostic on the question. You can't compute it. It's gibberish to you. Like when I uttered
No,
gibberish.
this is gibberish to me. This makes no sense. Why? There's absolutely no reason why, if you've never, even if you were to grant, I'd never even heard the term insurrection before, that I couldn't understand if you came up with a term for insurrection. I said, well, fit this other criteria better. Why it is that you couldn't concede that that was true? That's this absurd logic. And yes, Destiny is illogical.
Destiny got wrecked here, plain and simple. Andrew Wilson came in sharp, focused, and relentless, while Destiny just fumbled his way through the debate with half-baked arguments and desperate dodging. When you can't even define the thing you're debating about, you lose. And Destiny lost hard tonight. Another W for Andrew Wilson.